Okay. So, hi, my name is Pedro. I'm a designer. During my free time, I enjoy to travel, to meet folks like you, but also regarding design, arts. I also, when I do have a little time, I conduct some kind of workshops regarding UX design, but as well graphic design at the beautiful city of Prague, Czech Republic. I'm also a happy camper at Collabora, and today I intend to show you how easy it can be to customize Collabora Online. You know, without tricks and without coding and this type of thing. So any designer should be able to do it, or even any business owner, right? Talking about customization, there is great advantages regarding customization, not only because it allows you to customize it according to your needs, or even your personal taste. It can be just that, and that's fine. For that, we will be probably working with XML, CSS, and SVG. Nothing too complex. We can divide the theme in two pieces, if you will. The widgets that you know, includes dialogue, sidebar, etc., and all the controls, and the overall theme. So basically the rest, right? Toolbars, icons, drop-down menus. Going through widgets. So widgets are customizable. That's why I'm talking and starting with them. They actually use this new extended instance of native widget framework, and I really recommend you to either after or when you have time to watch the talk from Tomáš, where he talks a little bit about these intricacies of how this was implemented. But for now, let's just say that it draws the interface depending on a definition, or to be honest, a set of definitions that are included in one file, and we'll see that later on. It allows multiple customizations, right? So multiple definitions, which in turn means multiple themes. This is really cool. We can now have a theme depending on an environment. And big thanks for Affinis for this, yes. Now it's really cool that, you know, we open Collabora on an iPad, and without doing nothing, it just knows that it's an iOS device, and it just serves you with the right theme with the iOS-like components. And we'll see this later on. Sorry for the bullets. I also don't like it that much, but we'll see more pictures. Let's let him take a picture. Perfect. You know, and this in return gives you the opportunity to, for instance, going from, for instance, the no, yes, going from a purplish theme where you see not only colors but even components are from this theme, to something, for instance, more bright, where the accent color is actually blue, and even the controls per se completely change. You see here, this is great, and especially when you can serve it depending on the theme, as we discussed earlier. So you see the components change completely. Now, I'm going to show you an example of how you do that, right, step by step. So imagine you want to tweak a particular dialogue, a particular component of a dialogue. It couldn't be easier, right? So you go to your instdir directory inside of your core, And here you will find in this subfolder online this XML file. Yeah, it couldn't be more semantic, right? A file that has definition is called definition. And inside you will see a bunch of subtags. Now let's discuss one by one. The style tag, in a simple way, it deals with colors, right? Highlight, font colors. So even without messing too much around, too many SVGs, etc., you can just tweak the overall aesthetic just by changing those values. Next, we have settings. In settings, you can set values of things that are not particularly from a specific control per se, but generally. For instance, margins, tabs alignment, right? And we know that there is some dialogues with quite the number of tabs, so you can control that. The default font size, etc. And now we reach to our first control. Let's simplify this. So we can divide this in three parts. So first we need to say which type of control we are talking about, right? Here, let's talk about our little radio button. Then you will say, okay, this control will have this size using the part tag, and inside of this part tag you will have a bunch of states. Now, each of these state is actually not an individual state, but a combination of states, right? So as you see here, I'm saying, hey, please define that when the radio button is enabled, not pressed and checked, use this SVG, right? And you see that all the other states are actually a combination of states, you see? This allows you to have many intermediary states, right? Not just the on, off, disable, enable, which is really awesome. Because if you play your SVGs right, you can achieve some interesting aesthetic results. So, for instance, here, when it goes, basically you are talking about when the radio button is on and it's pressed, and we kinda, I'm not sure if you see it with a video projector, but we are already dimming out our little inner circle. So it almost gives this, even though there is an animation, it gives the essence and gives this visual cue to the user. And that's cool. Now, yeah, here we have, yes, it shouldn't be like this, yeah. Sorry for the rendering issue. Maybe it's the resolution. And exactly, we have many states, as we say, like, of course, more than one state can be catch, right? More than one state can be active. But just the first one will be understood and rendered. Yeah, that's why it's important for this order, the order you set your states. But of course, you can always play with it, right? You set some definitions, you play, you change some SVGs. It's quite easy. The SVGs, it would be located in parallel with your XML file. So there is actually no structure folder complexity here. Now, that being said, it doesn't make much sense to customize your widgets and then forget the rest, right? Everything should be one identity, one visual identity. And I'm happy to say that it should be still, easy to set up and easy to hack, even if you are just play with it. So in here, inside of your online directory, inside of this subfolder, you will find many CSS, many JavaScript files. So a word of advice would be don't try to change or hack every single file, because then you will have many loose pieces, right? And harder for you, even if it's just personally, even if you are just playing with it, it'll be harder for you to maintain. And then you fix some CSS rule in one file, and then you find out that in the other file is, yeah. So, and that's why you can just use this file, branding.css, and of course, if any images are referenced there, or you want to add any extra image, you can just drop them here, right? Before all these, you need to get Collabora or the development version of it, right? And be sure, this is quite important, that the code brand package it's on your machine, right? Just to check. And then hopefully you will see what we see here, right? Now, this has a couple of advantages, right? You have just one place where all these customizations go, one file, one folder, that's it. But what if, and we sometimes receive these emails, what if you went really happy with your customizations and suddenly you want to have many variants of your own customizations? Suddenly you want to have your own personal set of customizations, your little themes, if you will. It will be a little bit troublesome to just, have it like branding underscore copy one, and then, and then if you want to change, you need to rename. So for it, you should just, we have here a potato, and for this case, you should either refrain to have these multiple files and just have this CSS file and everything is there. So for instance, if you want to change the currency symbol, imagine you have a specific requirement from your customers, or even at your home, someone really likes potatoes, right? And for them, potatoes means currency, and that's how they see it. So you should be as easy as a potato to just replace the SVG with your SVG, and making sure that this is over this folder. And then it should be, easy peasy, right? You will just redraw and you will have a potato as your format currency symbol. So at the end, this gives you a great flexibility because it's really up to you. Like it doesn't matter your method, it doesn't matter how you do it locally. At the end, you just need to be sure that you update that CSS, you drop it there, right? That images are located here, and that's it, right? Now, could you improve this workflow? And again, I reiterate, you are free, to choose whatever method you want. What you might start to think is that, okay, wait, what if I divide the CSS file in multiple CSS files that have my own customizations and I can play with it? Like, I would, again, recommend to don't do that because then it means that you will alter your lowly flat directory, so it will not be this pristine directory anymore. Suddenly you'll have many things happening there. So for instance, if there is an update or something, you will have again these loose pieces. And then you might think, okay, but maybe I can change the classes in the HTML. No, don't do that. It will be really messy. So maybe if you really want to have a more organized structure of your own locally, I mean, apart from Collabora, so you have your own things, and then wherever you want, you just want to, okay, now I want to have it from my own customizations, and I want to drop it to Collabora, and everything works. If you want that, maybe we can talk about preprocessor, right? And this CSS preprocessor, it allows you to compile, I think, yes, it allows you to compile from a scripting language to CSS. And this, yes, adds a layer of complexity, but it also, and we will, for this example, we'll take Sass. and there is many, as you see, but for this example we'll take SAS. These suddenly allows you to work with variables, functions, what they call mixins. This translated means that you can avoid repetition because you can have variables. And you can have, for instance, even in this example where we are talking about vendor-specific properties, for instance, when you want to transform an element in CSS, or other example, and you need to use more these vendor-specific either for that browser or that browser, you can have this in one place and reuse the code, right? So you don't need to have this redundancy all over the place. Yes, plus it will still allow you to debug directly on a browser as you have been doing with CSS. You just need to be sure that you have the source maps on. And source maps are nothing more than little files that tell the browser, hey, this CSS came from this scripting file that happens to be a SAS file. And this even allows you to edit the SAS file directly, and you can then use these links just to be sure if they are enabled or set up correctly in your preferred browser. How you would go about to install it? There is many ways and using many different technologies. So it's, again, great level of flexibility. It's really up to you. And even all these we are discussing now, it's even not needed. It's if you are happy with just CSS, just, do your own customizations, just drop it in that directory we spoke about it, and that's it, no more work. But if you want more level of granular level of organization, you might want to install it over your preferred implementation. Again, a word of advice. This is the primary implementation, which means that performance fixes and even new features always appear first on Dart. And then it's up to the communities on the other implementations if they appear or not, or even with some small tweaks, different tweaks. Now, this is how you could structure it, locally, right? So again, the big advantage is that it doesn't affect your lowly flat directory. So your online folder structure is still pristine, no probability of problems there. And here is how you could structure, right? So you could, for instance, divide it in components. Your own, of course, here I went crazy. I'm just to give an example that you can really go granular and you can really have a lot of customizations as much as you want. And then you would have, for instance, a base file where all your theme-specific variables will be, right? And then this little guy, actually our main guy, would do the bridge of all these files and say, if there is a rule that comes from one of these files, and uses a specific theme, the guy say, okay, give me this color from this specific theme, and we'll probably read from this variables file. And we'll see this in a minute, so you don't need to worry. And finally, to run would be, for instance, just one line, and there is quite interesting flags here. But the advantage here is that you can automate this process, right? You can run this on a terminal, and actually many editors even have some plugins that if you really don't want to even can avoid the terminal and run this on the background. And it will be watching always your file. And you see even your own custom structure is in your local folder. It can automatically deploy to the directory we spoke about it. So at the end, it's doing the same, right? It's just rewriting that file. And then there is cool things like you can choose a compressed style for, smaller file, etc. But enough of bullets. Let's see an example, or second example, actually. So you see here, and I try to be a little bit brief and talk just a small detail because I think then it's clear to follow through. So you see, we are talking a bit about drop-down menus. different accent colors. For instance, even here we have a normal font height. Suddenly here we have bold. How you'd go about if you want to have, for instance, different set of customizations? Easy. So following that structure, we'll just go to our toolbar app file. We'd set normally as we would do, for instance, in CSS, but instead of keeping hammering down all the rules here, and probably if we have like 2, 3 set of customization, we'll have these times 2, times 3, who knows. So instead of these, we say, okay, no, just go and ask this little fellow, our base file, where we have all these theme-specific variables, etc., and get the values from there. On that side, this could be an implementation where we have just 2 set of rules, and said, okay, so if this variable is set to this, use this. If it's set to your theme 2, which is an extremely semantic variable value, you'd use this. And suddenly you have these 2 different set of customizations. And this is just one way to go about it. Of course, if you read the previous slide, there is many methods you can go about it, right? You can even have many themes for each specific file, right? It's up to you. Again, a greater level of flexibility. But just to make it simple, I use like this. I think it's easy to follow. And at the end, the goal here is to make it yours, right? Either for your own personal taste, or if you have a specific need, for instance, as we saw previously, if you want to have a currency format icon that is not a coin, but it's a potato, no problem. You can just switch it and have it there. So it's really up to you. And these are just a couple of examples how, the variety you can get from these simple steps. Yes, thank you. I hope it was not too fast and not too slow. Yes, sir. And sorry I know that you were waiting here long time, but I was waiting for everyone to calm down before starting.
Yeah, no worries.
Tell me.
I'm trying to figure out the separation between the rendering on the server side, which is done in Java, I believe, and the rendering on the client side, because where is the rendering done with the CSS files? Is that done on the server as well then?
Wait, it depends, because I go back a little bit. Okay. Yes, like if we are talking about widgets, it's different, right? Because as you notice, we are actually not using CSS inside when we are defining these objects, right? So, and I hope we have time. I skipped that because I thought we wouldn't have time for that. But for instance, many of these components, they are SVGs, right? So for instance, when we go here to our definitions, you see they are SVGs, right? Now we have 2 types of SVGs. On one side, we have the SVGs regarding the controls, right? And they end up to be rendered as a bitmap. Then we have other SVGs, the SVGs that they are mutable, they are changing, right? For instance, an SVG, for instance, for our, drop-down menu, or, they change width. So they're actually rendered via draw commands, right? So there is a difference there. But if you are talking about, the overall theme, so not the widgets per se, but the overall theme, then the coolness of these is that you can have online running. You can even use the web tools on a browser. Go to that branding.css, change it, or even delete the whole thing and paste whatever you want, and you will see in real time the changes appearing. Yeah, so it depending on what you are talking about, it's slightly.
On this particular screen that we can see here, like what is on the left side is rendered on the server, what is on the right side is rendered in the browser.
Yeah, or what parts of the right side are rendered on the server?
Everything what is not white is in browser. Everything that is not white there is the thing that you can do in the CSS. So all the icons you can do in CSS, all the menus you can do in CSS, all the status bar you can do in CSS.
Okay.
But the big one thing that's the document. So like normally there would be some text and stuff that is not that is rendered on the server, so you cannot find this one.
So that's where the separation lies.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But then you can see these dialogues there, and these are rendered on the server as well.
Yeah.
There's almost no Java anymore. No Java, it's all C++. Okay. No Java too.
Okay.
It's awesome to have candy in the room.
And does it count for a presentation as well?
What?
The presentation. So I'm not sure anymore how LibreOffice is calling them. I actually have this started.
Impress.
Ingress, yes, thank you. Is it working the same way?
It's
The slides are ready for the
basically when you are creating the slides, it's the same way. So again, the document is rendered on the server. But once you start the presentation, it is
It's you next.
interactive as
It's you next?
It is, yeah.
I didn't know, sorry.
I'll show him that. I'll show him something. Unless you want to show him something else.
No. I'm okay.
Cool, well done. Nice job. Oh,
Thanks.
Happy.
Oh, it's okay. I don't need applause. No.